So in chapter 2, we will talk about introduction to C++. So first we will discuss the parts of any C++ program. So this is like a typical C++ program or a simple C++ program. So in this program, this line is like a comment. A comment is something like the computer will ignore. It's just some notes the programmer write for himself or for other programmers. So this line will be ignored by the computer. So to start a comment, you can do // and then whatever you write here is ignored. After that, in every program, you need to write #include and then you write IO stream. So this is like we need to include some libraries. This library will use it here, for example. This cout. If you want to use cout, you have to include this line. So at this stage, maybe you will not understand it completely, but later you will understand the meaning of this line. After that, you need to write again using namespace std. So we want to use the standard namespace. Again, this line you will not fully understand now, but later you will understand, and you make semicolon here. Actually, in every line in your program, you make semicolon, but this line is a comment. This line is to include, so we don't make semicolon. If we define or make brackets, we don't make semicolon. But otherwise, every other lines, if you have 20 lines here, every line should end with a semicolon. So using namespace std has semicolon. After that, we write the main function. So how to write the main function? You write int space main and parentheses, and you write the start of the main. It has to be a braces, like this type of bracket, and you close it. And between this is the main function. In the main function, usually you make indentation or space here. It's not important like Python, but it makes the program readable and look nice. But even if you delete this space, it will works, because these brackets mark the beginning and the end of the main function. And here we have only one important instruction to be written in C++. It's cout. So we write cout, we have this operator, and then we write the sentence that we want to print, hello there. And this return 0 is the end to mark the end of our program. So this is simple program in C++, and the goal of this program is to print hello there. So here the special character we will have. Here // it's the beginning of a comment. This is the hash signed, is the beginning of a preprocessor directive. This is like open and close bracket to include the file name, and I include IOStream here. We use that here. Here in the main method, when we name a function, we write these kind of brackets. Here is the beginning and the end of the main function block. Here at the beginning and the end of the string or the sentence that we want to print. Here is semicolon at the end of every programming statement. So let's talk more about the cout. Cout is used to display output in the computer screen. You can use stream insertion operator with the cout. So we write cout and this stream insertion operator, this one, and then we write the sentence that we want to print. So the cout can be used to send more than one item to the cout. So we can write cout in the following way. We write cout and then this operator, hello, space, this operator, and then there. Or we can write hello and then in another line there, it's the same output. So the output of this and the output of this is exactly the same. So this produce one line output. So even if you have two cout, still it will print programming is fun, in one line. If you want to print it in two lines, you need to do something called end L or end line. So we write cout programming is, and then another time operator and end line. This means you want to print a new line. So the fun will be in a new line. So this will make the output in just two lines. So this is the output of these two lines. So you don't put quotation mark around end line. So don't put quotation mark in end line, because if you put quotation mark, it will print end line. But I don't want to print end L. I just want to make a new line. The last character in L is L and not 1, because sometimes they look similar, but this is lowercase l and not 1. We can also use \n to make a new line similar to the end L. So we can write programming is and then \n. This will not be printed. The computer will understand this as a new line. You want to make a new line. But notice that this \n has to be inside the quotation, but the end line is outside the quotation. So this is the difference between the two. Now let's talk about include directive. So the include directive, it inserts the content of another file into the program. Because I want to use IO stream, so it brings me this file in my program. So this is preprocessor directive, not part of the C++ language. It just tells that you want to include another file. So include lines not seen by the compiler. Don't place a semicolon at the end of include. Include at the end of it does not have semicolon. Let's now talk about variable and literal. Variable is just storage location in the memory. It has a name and a type, and it must be defined before it can be used. Something like this. So if you want to use a variable of type integer, you write int item semicolon. So for example, this is another example. This is comment include IO stream because I want to use this file for the output, using namespace std because I want to use cout again, int main, start of the main, end of the main, and here I defined a variable of type integer and the name of this variable is number. Later I can make number equal to 5. If I delete this, I will get error, because in C++ you are not allowed to use a variable without declaring that variable. So here you need to declare it first, and then you give it initial value 5, and then you can print the value in the number. You can print this string, and also you can print the value of this variable, which is 5, and end line, a new line. So if you print something else here, it will be a new line. So literals, this means if you have some values written inside the code, this is called literal. For example, inside this code, we have 5. So this 5 is literal. Or we have here a string. This is called string literal. So this 20, as we said, this 20 is literal because it's a value inside the code. And this is string value inside the code, so it's also literal. Identifier is just the name that you give to part of the programs. Usually we give names for variables, functions, and maybe other things. So these are called identifier. The first rule when you give a name for identifier, don't use reserved word or keyword. So in C++ we have these keywords. Don't use them as a name of a variable or a name of function. For example, don't use else, don't use if, don't use long, don't use int, and so on. Don't use double, don't use float, don't use public. So the variable name should represent the purpose of the variable. You should use a name that represent the variable. So if you want to store the speed, you should call the variable speed. If you want to store the price of something, you should call it price. If you want to store the item ordered, you should call it item ordered. So the first character of the identifier must be alphabetic character or underscore. So this is also a rule. You cannot start the name of the variable with a number. After the first character, you may use characters or numbers or underscore. And also, C++ is case sensitive, so if you choose a name capital A, it will be different than the name small a. So it differentiates between upper and lower cases. So for example, is this name valid? Yes. This name is also valid. This name is not valid because we are not allowed to use dot. This name is not valid because we cannot start with 4. This name is not valid because we cannot use $sign. Integer data types. We have one data type called integer, and actually this integer has how many? It has 6 data types in C++. So it's short, unsigned short, int, unsigned int, long, unsigned long. All these types, they store integer numbers, but the difference is the size. So short is 2 bytes to store the integer. Integer is 4 bytes. Long is supposed to be longer, but in some types of C++ it's the same as integer. So we have unsigned means you cannot store negative numbers in the unsigned version of the data type. So variable of the same type can be defined in separate lines. You can define, if you want to define 2 variables, you can define everyone in one line, or you can define them in the same line if they are from the same type. If they are from different type, they have to be in different lines. This is like example. So again, comment, include using namespace. This has to be in every program. And this is the main function. This is the end, and this is the rest. This is the start, and this is the end. Here we have 3 variable. The first variable of type integer, second variable of type unsigned int, it's called miles, because you cannot have minus miles, right? And you have days, also long. And we store here 3 different values in these variables, and then we print something. We have made a long journey of this miles. Our checking account balance is this, and so on. We print some output for this program. So integer literal, the integer literal is 15 in this case. It's 15. And this is also integer literal inside the code. As we say, it's a value inside the code. The integer literal is stored in the memory as integer by default. Okay. Let's now talk about character type. The character type, it's a new type character where we can store one character. To store the character, we have to make this sign before and after the character. So actually, when we store C in the variable letter, in the memory, it's every character has a code, and we will store just the integer code of that character. So this data type, we store only one character, it's 1 byte, and we store actually the code of that number. So character literal must be enclosed in single quotation mark, single, not double quotation. Double quotation is for string, single is for character. Something like we define a variable of type characters, and we assign it A, and we print it. We change the value to B, and we printed it, and so on. So the character strings in C++, we have strings, and if we have a sequence of characters, then we have like a string, something like this. So that's all for this video, and we will continue in the next video. Thank you very much.